Welcome to Wired to Hunt's Rut Fresh Radio, bringing you the latest reports from the Whitetail Woods. Presented by First Light, creating proven, versatile hunting apparel for the stand, saddle, or blind. First Light. Go farther, stay longer. And now, your hosts, KC Smith and Tyler Jones.
We are well into early season whitetail hunting, but ambition is not lost because hunters around the country remark how weather changes are increasing deer movement. This is Rut Fresh. Let's go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Rut Fresh Radio. This is week two of multiple weeks throughout the entire fall and winter that we're going to be doing this. We're talking to people from all over the country this week. We're trying to bring to you a lot of these deer seasons that are open that people think about, but also the ones that are a little more ambiguous. KC, I feel like this is the first time it actually feels a little bit more like deer season all summer. It's been blazing hot, man.
It has been blazing hot. The recent addition of cool weather is like almost a new feeling because it's been so long. But never fear. First Light has you covered, whether it's hot or cold. Get you some First Light gear.
It's gear for deer.
It is gear for deer. We're here for the deer.
I'm here for the deer, man.
And who are we going to hear from today, Tyler?
Oh, man, just so many rhymes. We got a few people that we're gonna be hearing from. Greg Litzinger in Delaware. I didn't even know that season was open yet.
How big is Delaware?
About the size of our county.
I feel like it is about a county size. I feel like it's very small.
I wanted to be like, man, where are you hunting? But, probably wouldn't be hard to find.
There's one WMA, so
it's like Dion, man. It ain't hard to find.
That's right.
Lucas Psycho in North Dakota. He's a good friend of ours, optimist, and just a really good deer hunter. He's always on just big old, and I ain't even talking about Michigan mature. I'm talking about some mature bucks. You know what I mean? This ain't 2-year-olds. Christian Babcock, he's getting over food sickness, food poisoning, which I know how brutal that can be. But it's a good way to start your diet. He's out in Nebraska this week, and he's been having some decent success, good sightings, good report for us. And then our old buddy Brian Grossman. He's not old. He's just a buddy that has been a buddy for an old time. You know what I mean?
If it was Spanish, you'd say ole, buddy. Right? Like that kind of old buddy.
I feel like there's a lot of people that put ole in English too, when they're trying to tie the short of old, and they put the apostrophe or whatever. Instead of putting the apostrophe, they put an E at the end. It's ole,
Ye old Brian Grossman.
Old. Brian's out in Georgia. So another Southern boy who, man, he puts a challenge on himself. He's a part of a entity that knows a lot about managing deer, yet he does that too, but he still really challenges himself on public land every year and has been really working hard to do that. He actually had some success this past week, so we're going to hear from him
September
too.
Deer, doesn't he?
He does, man.
Yeah.
It's weird that Georgia's open in September. I feel like it's got to be just pretty much home for us, but just with a deer season.
Blazing hot, yeah.
So hot.
I don't know. There's a trend nationally to have these earlier seasons. And I kind of wonder what that's driven by. I think it's pretty much economics, I would imagine.
Surely.
I mean, hunters want an opportunity at velvet deer, and that's kind of pretty apparent. But, I don't know what a state's motivation is unless they're exceeding quotas or exceeding, the amount of deer that they're trying to have on the landscape, so they're just going to open up more season outside of the travel thing. And sooner or later, it's going to kind of flip-flop. As we see more and more of these states opening up more early seasons, it's going to not be as special anymore, so you're going to have less travel. And then it's like, well, what's
be easier to find guys for Rut Fresh, though.
That's right.
I can guarantee you that.
That's right. If you want your state to be refreshed on Rut Fresh, and we're not hitting it, let us know, because we try to make sure we hit every state in the country that has a whitetail deer season throughout the year. But these early seasons are kind of hard because I don't really know what's going on in Vermont, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But
especially now that Bernie's out of the main news,
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, there's a way to get in touch with us too. Probably the best way would be just send an Instagram message. So that's The Element Wild. So you can check that out if you follow Wired to Hunt, but you don't follow us. We're over there. If you send a message to Wired to Hunt, it will not get responded to, nor will it probably even get read. I don't know. I'm speaking for Mark, but I can almost promise you we will not find out that your state needs to be highlighted if you send that message there. So,
Tyler?
Yes, sir.
The guys on the podcast today talk a lot about tactics remaining pretty similar, but weather changes making a difference on how many deer they observe. You yourself are, I'm going to go ahead and say, likely to shoot a September buck this year.
Am I?
Yes, likeliness.
That's
the likeliness is high. What pattern, this is called Rut Fresh, right? Because people like to hunt the rut. We all realize the rut is not going on in September. It's not lost on us, I promise, guys. So, in fact, September is about as far from the rut as it gets. Outside of like May, right? So, what pattern do you expect to kill a deer on in September? Is it going to be
Spectre?
No, not in, on.
Oh, on.
Yeah.
No,
on.
And I would say I'm going to kill a deer on a pattern that a lot of guys are hunting right now, which is bed to feed, bed to food, however you want to say it. And probably I expect to shoot a deer in the evening headed to food. That's my thought. And probably not corn, but something else. Let
me ask you a question. You said evening. It's because a lot of times early season evenings are kind of like sometimes the only time people hunt. I've hunted mornings and evenings, but it's because I've had a lot of room. I think the average hunter, if they're hunting this time of year, may or may not have a ton of different areas to go to, especially if they're hunting private ground. So how apt are you to hunt or to write off mornings if you only have like a limited area? Say you have 100 acres to hunt. Are you going to hunt a morning?
I think it would be more based on what the deer are doing than how much room I have. I think, generally speaking, the less room you have, you're probably right. You're probably on the right track there. But I definitely think that it would be more, I would think more about when is that deer most killable and or is he killable in the morning as opposed to, the number of acres. So I think I guess what I'm saying is I killed a deer October 4th on bed to feed, nothing else, in a bachelor group with another nice 8-point, killed a 10-point on public ground. They were, I don't know what, if there's a term for it, but I always call it back to bed food stage or staging. And so essentially deer will, early season, they'll leave these ag fields and pretty early usually. And then they'll get into cover and then they'll feed around for quite a while sometimes. So they may not even move a lot, or they may still kind of browse through and move pretty good, which they were doing that morning. And, really what you're looking at is like high stem count, high forward count, cover that a deer feels, is pretty, he's got a good advantage of for the cover, for what he likes for that time of year when he's not like stupid like they are in the rut, and just crazy. And so, you've got the cover aspect, but you also need something for them to browse on. So in this case, it was a lot of willows for the cover, I felt like, and a lot of just random, I don't even know. It was in South Dakota. There's forbs everywhere. That was a couple of years ago. So they were just browsing like crazy. This thing was so fat. So I think that's kind of what I look at more than anything is like, can I kill that deer in the morning? And so I knew where these deer were probably going to destinate. The night before I had made assumptions, but I hadn't actually seen these deer in this field. And then I put together that bedding would be, whatever, a half mile away or something. So it's kind of my long-winded answer to that, I guess.
It's good. Yeah. Wind is good this time of year.
Yeah.
Especially long ones.
Yeah. I mean,
if it's still, it's not good, guys. You need a little breeze to make sure that scent is going the right direction. I think that to kind of go along with that and to kind of play off the joke I just made, early season deer are really patternable. And if you mess up that pattern, it could be a sad day for you. So don't go in there blowing your wind in a sketchy direction or whatever, because they are just pretty sensitive this time of year. They have nothing else to do except live. They're not trying to breed. They're not trying to fight. None of that stuff. They just want to live. So they will blow out if you
know what?
blow your
This is
wind
a
the
good
wrong way.
point, man. In fact, those deer had been seen by one of our compadres, I think like 2 days before or the day before.
Yeah.
And had gotten your wind, I think, at some point, right?
Yep.
And they were not a long ways away, but they were off that pattern for sure. They were onto a different pattern. And I didn't intend to go hunt this buck, but that's the buck. The two bachelor bucks that came in were the ones you had seen like the
There's
day
a
before.
decent distance from where I'd seen them, and they winded and left out. Not like freaking out or anything, running, but they
just like,
they
there's
definitely
something
got
over
the
there.
wind. Yep. So, anyways, I think that's a good thing to keep in mind this early season. I'm excited to hear what the other guys around the country have to say, because it's interesting to me, honestly, is that around the country almost the same thing is happening everywhere right now. And then as the year starts to progress and fall starts to push down, we get to see the changes kind of happen for different hunters around the country. So it's an exciting time of year, and I say it almost every podcast right now. Deer season is close. It's real close. In fact, some of you are having a deer season right now.
Right, man.
Congratulations to you. I'm about to leave out on a top-secret deer mission myself and then go shoot the biggest elk of my life. It's going to happen.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm calling it.
Holy, dude. What
Calling
a
it.
September.
Well, I haven't shot very many big elk. I shot a few elk, but they're all like, in the high 200s. So
Yeah.
I can do better than that.
I feel like you might have shot one that was bigger one time, too.
Maybe. Yeah, he lived over it, though, sadly.
I hate to bring it up, but
Well, you did.
but I did. But I just was thinking because you might end up seeing some of that footage here pretty soon. So,
Yep. By the way, guys, if you're listening today, there's an Element episode as well. Go check out that on our feed. But for now, let's get to hear what the guys around the country have to say about whitetail bucks.
now on the phone, I've got my good friend Greg Litzinger, not to be confused with Ashley Simpson, the lip syncer. Greg, you've been hunting Delaware, man. How's that been?
It was hot.
Yeah.
Hot and shifting winds, which makes for a fun time in the woods, you know?
That makes it near impossible, man. The shifting winds thing, those kind of still days or variable winds, man, can be really tough.
Yeah, the 2 days we had good wind, and they were the best days to be in the woods, you know, steady wind.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of deer were seen, but that shifting warm winds are just, it's tough.
I wonder if the deer feel that. Like if the deer is like, man, I got a consistent wind. Like it's instinctual more than this.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I got something that I can stick my nose into and walk, you know?
I think older bucks, yes. Younger bucks, probably not so much. But
Yeah.
I think deer's been around for years. He wants a somewhat steady wind.
Sure. So public land in Delaware, not a lot of people thinking about that are, you know, at least across the U.S. And it was hot and variable winds, but you still had some deer come by, right?
Yeah, I was on deer almost every time I went out. I had deer almost in range, and 4 times out, I could have killed some does, but you know, foliage and sticks don't allow those things sometimes.
Yeah, this time of year can be tough. Did you? What kind of patterns were you basing your hunting sets on?
Just 50 yards off, bean fields, cornfields.
Cool.
I think people sleep on the corn when there's beans around, but I get the same pattern. Deer go on the food. They're not going to walk a mile to get beans if there's corn right there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
As, the month's pushing on here, I feel like the bachelor groups are going to start to spread out. Did you see bucks in bachelor groups, or do you feel like they were kind of loners?
My buddy's seen them in groups, and I started noticing some rubs and scrapes that they're about ready to break off some of these bucks.
Yeah.
You
Were
know,
they still
sure.
a velvet?
Half and half.
Yeah. Gotcha. So I guess as you look at the next week and maybe weather, maybe moon, maybe, you know, even consistent winds, like you said, if it's more consistent, is there anything to look forward to? Is it going to be better, worse, the same? Are you going to switch patterns?
I think it's going to be better because the temperature is going to be more favorable for better winds.
Okay.
Yeah, we had that warm weather and variable winds, and then like the dreaded east wind. I don't see a lot of big deer on east winds personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you got a big system like out in the Atlantic over there, does that, there's that huge hurricane that's building. Do you feel like that gives you good consistent weather, or is that going to be something that makes it volatile?
If it makes it up in full force, then yeah, you can get some consistency for a day or two out of it before it turns to crap.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So are you changing your patterns, the way you're hunting, or what pattern you're hunting deer on, or same?
Bed to food.
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
So
just not so close to the food in the evening. I might back off 150 yards.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know if he's going to break daylight. I prefer to shoot him an hour before. I'm not a fan of gray light as I get older because my vision isn't the best. So I like to shoot him a little bit before dark.
Yeah, for sure. Do you? I know off air we were talking a little bit. You said that you got to a field or an area and deer were already out in the field early. Is that something that you've been noticing lately, or and you having to adjust kind of when you head in the woods?
Yeah. Usually I find that when the red moons. I don't fully believe in the red moon, but some instances, like early season before pressure kicks in, they were saying that deer were going to be on the field edge at like 5 o'clock, and 5 o'clock the deer are pouring out. So maybe there's some truth to it.
There's something to it for sure. If that's the case, man, that's cool. Well, as you look forward to the next week here, if you had to rate the buck movement on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think that looks like?
It's going to get better. I'm going to give it probably a 6.
All right, dude. Yeah, dude.
6 is encouraging.
60% of the time, it works every time,
That's
Greg.
right, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for giving us the report, man. I appreciate you, man, as a friend and as a fellow hunter, man. I know you are worth your salt, man. You do a good job, and you get after the big old bucks. Yeah, dude. So, anyway, I hope we get to talk to you again this year, but if not, man, I hope you get after them and kill some big bucks there in Delaware and everywhere else.
Same as you guys. Same to you guys.
Thanks, man. Now on the phone, Lucas Psycho, good buddy of ours from North Dakota. He's been hunting as usual, and bucks tend to go down around you, man. What else has been going on?
Not much, man. Just wrapped up a deer camp with the guys and knocked down a couple of bucks, and one particularly pretty big one, and fixing to go out this evening here.
Dude, you are a big buck magnet, dude. I don't understand it.
I don't know. I'll say this: I'm statistically lucky.
Well, I would say statistically you're a pretty good deer hunter, probably. But anyway, man, what did y'all? So you had 2 deer go down in camp. Was there any commonalities between how you guys were able to take them, like what patterns you were hunting them on, or whatever?
Yeah, just strictly bed to food, right?
Yeah.
Alfalfa fields have been hot, that's the green right now up here. So anywhere we got alfalfa fields, we've been hitting those hard and hunting the transition areas for bed to food. Mm-hmm. So mornings have been hotter than the evenings for the most part, and they generally are, especially when we got some 90-degree temps there over opening week, and almost 100 one day, and so evening movement was almost nothing. And then, but what that does do around here, it seems like the mornings they move a little bit later on those hot days. So,
Dude, I love that strategy. That's the thing that I love to do too. I love mornings, early season, and one of the things I've seen you do a lot is like find a buck and move in on him. Is that still what y'all are doing, kind of here in this early season, or are you hunting like general areas?
Yeah, absolutely. We had to make a good move on one of the bucks, and it took us 3-4 days to figure it out, but we finally figured it out and got in on him. And he just so happened to walk to my buddy rather than me, which is just fine, because that's what we're out there for. We're out there to share it with the guys we want to share it with, So
for sure, man.
So that's what it's all about. So he smacked him, hard shot him, and it was awesome.
What percentage of the bucks where you're at have shed their velvet so far, do you think?
What's that?
What percentage of the bucks where you're at have shed their velvet so far, do you think?
Well, by right now, we're probably looking at majority. Yeah. So it was like 50% through the week, it seemed like, though. So the one buck my buddy Dustin got was full velvet, and then the one that my other buddy got on the 6th was pretty much out.
Cool. So, in the next week or so, are they still? Do you still feel like you're going to be? Because I know when we first got on, you were talking to me about off air about you're going to be getting back after them again. Are they going to still be doing the same type of things, bed to feed, same type of bedding, and also probably on alfalfa, or you think there's going to be some sort of switch?
Nope, I think we're going to stay the same as far as movement patterns for the next few weeks here for sure. This week, like it's 70 degrees now, so and it's supposed to stay 70. A little bit of rain moving through here this weekend, so it's going to be good. And it looks like we're still going to warm up in like the 80s this next coming week here. So which is great, because one thing that sucks is if you just have stagnant weather patterns, and just deer get a little bit stagnant and kind of almost like they're bored. Yeah. So we'll get this up and down movements, whether it's even hot, super hot to cooling off. I'll take it as long as that weather pattern is changing.
Yeah. Sure.
So
with the impending weather change coming, if you had to rate what you think the next week's going to be like on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think that's going to look like for buck movement?
I think we're going to be sitting right close to it, right around an 8-9 around here. I think you're going to have some good opportunities, and deer are going to move really well for at least the next 4 or 5 days for sure. And then we're going to get a change in winds, likely with that 80-degree temps. We'll get some south. So what it does too, it opens up all these different areas to hunt, with the other winds that you generally don't have. So gives you those, opportunities to move in on stuff that you haven't been to. So those first sit hunts are those are going to be very available for guys. So
yeah, dude, you're so good at this, man. I appreciate you hopping on the phone and spending time with us, man, and just putting some wisdom into the podcast. And appreciate your energy, dude. You're always such an optimistic dude and just full of energy, man. So I hope you guys have a great season, man.
Hell yeah, you too. You guys too. I always appreciate chatting with you guys.
All right, now I've got our buddy Brian Grossman from the NDA, and he has been doing a little early season hunting in the great state of Georgia. Brian, what's going on?
Oh, man, not a whole lot. Just, enjoying the season finally being open.
That's good, man. What's better in Georgia, the hunting, the dogs, or the Braves?
Oh, it's the hunting for me.
Oh, hot dog, let's go. That's good, man. That's cool. Yeah, so you've been out in the early season. You had some success, shot you a doe with a recurve. That's awesome, man. What kind of pattern were you hunting when you were out there?
Yeah, it's pretty tough right now because we're not. I'm not seeing anything in the way of acorns dropping. Still a little early to see what's going to happen with those. But there are some things like persimmons and muscadines that you can key in on this time of year. If you can find them and find some that are being hit. That's always a pretty good bet. But for the most part, it seems like, at least where I'm at, they're kind of still on that summer browse pattern. Anything green out there, forbs, shrubs, tree leaves, all that kind of stuff. That seems to be where it's at right now, which can be pretty tough down here because there's plenty of that to go around.
I heard that, man. So are you setting up on habitat transitions, or what are you looking at when it comes to? I mean, if you got a bunch of forbs around, what are you really keying in on? What's the limited resource there?
Yeah, I mean, right now, until I do start finding that concentrated feed sign, I'm just sticking to cover. Good heavy cover. Trying to find, those entrance and exit routes kind of on the periphery of good cover and set up on that. It's just hard to peg down a food source. I'm trying to hunt in the vicinity, with them feeding on forbs and greenery and that kind of stuff. Clear cuts are always a great bet. Thin pines around here where they've really thinned the pines back and you get a good understored growth. Or any place where some kind of natural opening, in the woods with that understored growth can be a good spot for sure.
Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of cool weather and some precipitation in the forecast for a lot of the country right now. Is that something you got in Georgia coming up here too?
It is going to cool down a little bit for Georgia, I guess. starting, I think maybe later this week, in more low 80s as opposed to like, upper 80s, 90s that we've been having. So that'll definitely be welcome. Not a whole lot of rain in the forecast for where I'm at. I've actually finally worked up about a 3/4 acre food plot here on my place, which I'm excited about. But ever since I worked the ground up, there's no rain has happened and no rain's in sight. So I'm still kind of waiting to put the seed down for that.
Well, shoot, man. Yeah, that's if the water doesn't fall from the sky, it's hard to get it there sometimes.
Yeah, no sense in putting the seed out until they start to see some rain in that forecast.
Are you prioritizing those cool days as the days you're trying to get out in the woods, or are you just kind of taking it easy until the season kind of progresses on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an equal opportunity type hunter. I'm getting out anytime I can, regardless of weather. But yeah, I certainly, man, if I see it's going to be a good cooler day, I want to be out there for sure. Not necessarily just because of deer movement, but just because it's a more comfortable time to be out there. So.
Yeah. So going into the next week, does anything change? You still hunting cover? I mean, you're not going to get any rain, so you're not going to see any food plotting or anything like that. If you were to go hunting this next week, is it same type of scenario, or are you going to change things up a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably still be sticking to cover, but every time I'm out there, I'm going to be kind of scout my way in, looking for that feed sign, because it's only a matter of time for some acorns to start hitting the ground, and those patterns start shifting a little bit. So
Gotcha.
Just always looking for that most recent sign.
Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you assume buck movement is going to be like next week?
I'd probably, just in general for this time of year, probably put it, I don't know, 6, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, the deer are going to move regardless. They're going to move. It's just a matter of where and being there. But like I said, on that summer feed pattern, they don't have to move around a lot because the cover and the food source are kind of one and the same. So,
Yep. Gotcha.
I'd say kind of mid-range there.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate your time. I hope you get after them in Georgia once it starts cooling down. I hope you get rain, man, and we're praying for the same here. So we'll talk to you later on this season, Brian.
All right, man. Sounds good. You guys be safe out there.
All right, now I have Christian Babcock from Hunter's Advantage. What's going on, dude?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, we're good, man. We're just chilling. We got a cold front, and things are feeling like deery out there, but there's no season open in Texas. There's only a few states open right now, one of which is Nebraska, which is where you have been. And I hear there's something in the water and the food out there.
You're not lying there. A good battle with some whitetail bucks and muleys, and then food poisoning too. It's kind of the trifecta.
Are you sure it wasn't buck fever?
It might have been. It might have been, guys. I'm not sure.
Well, so how'd the trip go, man? I'm kind of interested in what they were doing this last week out there.
Yeah, I spent a couple of days over in kind of the western portion of the state, and then moved over to more of the mixture of whitetail and muley country. But we saw some pretty good buck movement in the middle, the early mornings and late evenings, like you'd expect kind of in September. And it was awesome. We saw some good cold fronts too up there. I mean, many days with lows in the 50s, which for someone that lives in Texas like you guys is kind of wild this part of the year. But it was a good hunt.
Man, that is one of the nice things about going north, for the early season is that nice weather you get. When you're out there, in the past, especially the past few years, Nebraska's really suffered from drought. This year has been a little better, but, later towards the end of the summer, it still got really dry. Did it seem like a lot of the crops were in, or were there some fallow fields around?
Yeah, it seemed the majority of the stuff we were seeing was in standing corn right now. And then a lot of cut and baled alfalfa, which seemed to be where a lot of those deer were spending their time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's a good thing to key in on. Did you feel like that alfalfa was better in the morning or the evening, and was the corn the inverse of that?
Yeah, the standing corn, we saw some deer around it in the evenings, but, they get into that stuff and kind of just disappear. So it seemed like the morning and the evening was pretty consistent on the alfalfa, and we had pretty good luck getting in between that on private, and then some of those deep cuts that are filled with cedars. seeing, kind of getting them on bed to feed, filtering back between food and bedding in those deep cuts. And we saw some pretty good activity doing that.
Gotcha. So would you feel like you're sitting closer to bedding or closer to the food?
Closer to bedding, because they're, most of the food that was on the public was standing corn, and that's kind of a jungle to try to hunt in and around this time of year. So we were keying in more on bedding, I'd say.
Okay. So, if you were going to be there this next week, would you be doing more of the same, or do you think things are going to change at all?
I'd be doing probably the exact same thing we were doing this week. Trying to get them going back to bedding off of food. That seemed to be a pretty good tactic. I mean, there were several instances where me and my buddy Gabe saw a deer, under 150 yards. And then once you get in that country and you get an opportunity, and it's just kind of up to you to seal the deal from there. So we were in the chips, with between the food poisoning and that, but that's exactly, I'd do it again, just this time with a good stomach.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. So were you spending a lot of time like on the ground spotting, stalking whitetail, or do you feel like setting up ambush styles is a better thing to go right now?
Man, what I love about that country is it's open and, you can really see quite a ways. So we spend a good amount of time sitting up on, ledges and just glassing and trying to make moves from there. I'm sure somebody could. I just know that I didn't feel like going out there and using a saw for an hour on a cedar tree. So that just sounded more my style with spot and stalk this week.
It's a good way to sweat it up, even if it is kind of cooler,
Yeah.
Man, looking forward here, do you feel like the buck movement's going to be nice? You said things are going to be kind of consistent, and then what would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, I saw on the next week, there's a few days with showers that are going to be lows in the 40s. I think I'd see some pretty good buck movement, maybe extending through the day, not just the first 30 minutes to an hour of light if I was to go back this next week. And I'd be pretty excited about it. Sadly, I'm not, but I'd be pumped if I was going back next week.
Yeah, it's cool. So what would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 for buck movement?
For next week, probably a 4, which I would have rated the last week maybe a 2. It's still early season hunting, but there's plenty of opportunity out there.
Yeah, I appreciate the realistic approach on that too. A 4 is still a pretty good day in the whitetail woods, man. So that's a good report, dude. We appreciate the time, and I'm glad you're feeling better, because I know that food poisoning stuff's rough, dude. And I hope that you don't have to encounter any more of that adversity throughout the season. You've had enough so far. So from here on, it's smooth sailing, right?
That's right. Paid my dues. Here we go.
Sounds great, man. Well, we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Really appreciate those guys and all the solid reports from around the country. There's a lot of optimism right now, and you should be optimistic too. If you're not, and you need to maybe hone up on some of your skills, there's a really cool article from Tony Peterson on effective bino use for hunting whitetail deer on the Wired to Hunt feed. And by the way, episode 3 of 1 week of November comes out this week. We'll link to that stuff below. Also, check out the Element Podcast if you haven't. You get to hear a lot about our day-to-day. There'll be a new episode of that today if you're listening to this on Wednesday. This has been Rut Fresh. Remember, keep it fresh.